Hi, welcome back. This is the lesson 7. Remember that in lesson 4, we did some plotting with the layouts that we created. We developed the candlestick chart, that is our main chart, and we also established 3 moving average along with the candlestick chart and present them into the same main chart. And in the last lessons, we provided some additional informations for this main chart. For each of the candlesticks, we calculate their corresponding trading volume and present them in a bar chart so that we can understand how strong these candlesticks are or how weak these candlesticks are. Apart from the volume bar chart, another useful chart is a RSI graph, which provides us some additional signals that tell us to buy when the stock is oversold and to sell when it is overbought. The RSI is calculated using the average price gains and also in losses over a given period of times. Typically, the time period is 14 time steps, so we will follow that trend, but of course, you can change it to whatever period you want. Let's go ahead and get started. Before we move on, let's take a look on the final chart. Few things that I want to highlight. Firstly, we want to show the latest RSI in the upper left corners. So obviously we need to calculate that and put that over there. Secondly, we want to put these RSI data in the line charts as well, so that we know it's an upward trend, downward trends, or reversing trends. And to better present the result, we also add a red line for overbought and a green line for oversold. Lastly, you can see the x-axis is showing the time, so we need to create a time label as well. Let's try to understand the formulas of the RSIs. That means we need to create a functions to calculate the RSI in the program. And the RSI indicator is calculated as shown below. From these formulas, it's clear that the RSI will always take a value between 0 and 100. And that means it's like a percentage. If the value is close to hundreds, that means it's overbought that period of times. And if the value is close to 0, that means it's oversold. Classic oversold conditions in that periods of the time. And this is the formula that we need to create. And also we need to, for RS, that means we need to calculate the average gains and average loss, and that is their relative strength. In that case, we also need to use the exponential weighted functions to calculate the gain and also to calculate the loss in the past, say for example, 14-time lap period. In that case, let's create that functions. Now let's go back to this code, and the first things that I want to do is to create a RSI function. I want to compute the RSI. And I'm going to pass it some data, and then the other argument is the time window. In our case, is 14, but of course I try to put it as a parameters. In that case, if you want to use any other values, you can just plug and play. And the difference, first we try to calculate the difference between the data to understand whether it's a gain or this is a loss. And, and then we need to know whether it's a positive change or whether this is a negative change, so that we can calculate the exponential average based on the changes. And here I just want to preserve the dimensions of these difference. So I just make it times close to 0 times the difference first. And then in that case, um, I try to set the up change is equals to the positive difference, otherwise equals to 0, so that we can calculate exponential uh, functions, exponential gain or exponential loss correctly. Difference that is larger than 0, that is a up change. If that is less than a 0, that is a down changes. Now we are ready to calculate the up change FH, up change FH, and also the down change FH. Up change, I will use the panda functions, that is the exponential weighted FH, and then the computes, that is this is to set the alphas equals to 1 over time windows. So I need to use com equals to time windows minus 1. For further details, please go back to the Pandas documents. They will provide you more informations. And in this case, because we want uh, to put this exponential weighted average as the RS to compute the RSI. Therefore, we just set this com equals to time windows minus 1. But please feel free to refer to the Pandas documents. I will put it in the as a reference later on. And then for the minimum period, that is the periods, I just set it as the time windows. And then we want to get the average value for that. Again, for the down change, uh, just use these down change to calculate the exponential values and take the mean. And finally, we can use that, can plot that formula, that is the absolute value between the uptrend FH over the down change FH, and then put the RSI equals 100 minus 100 over the 1 minus 1 plus RS, and then return the calculated RSI. We will use the close price for the RSI, and then we put all the values back to the data frame. So I put these functions under these with data open high low close functions, and put it under these moving average calculations. Here I use the compute RSI functions, and then the data that I'm going to pass to it is the closing data. And remembers that we need to give a time step to it, and that is 14th for that windows. And then once we compute the RSI, that is a time series, I will just pass it back to the Pandas data frame, so that later on we can have these RSI value from these from this weight data open high low close functions turns these RSI in these Pandas frame. Now we have the RSI values, and also we can calculate that RSI, return it into a data frame. We are ready to create the chart. Again, we just clear everything first, and then I'm going to use the same design and the y-axis, just similar here. I do not show the y-axis value, so I just set it invisible, or visible equals to false. And then for the y limit, because the value is from 0 to 100, so I just leave some margins to it, set it to 0, -5 to 105. Remember that we want to create a few lines to the chart. So the first one is the oversold, and the second one is the overbought. And in the middle, I will also put a line over there. And the and now we just need to give some styles for it. Say for example, for the line style, say solid line, the colors equals to green, and then the line width to 0.5. Here the line is the wet, also set it to 0.5 line width, and in the middle I just maybe just use bright color. And finally we can just send another plot apart from those line, also add the line charts to it, and plot the x axis for the data RSI as the y axis. Color to 0, 8, 0, 9, and this is a pale blue color. Change it to whatever color you want. The line width is 1.5. Just in case if you forget what data x-axis is, here we go. The last lessons, this is already presented that, and this is just at least I just give a range for that from the first values and then to the last values. Of course, we plus one because we take one step at the very beginning. But anyway, you can refer my last videos just in case if you know about the x-axis. And then because we want to show the text, I just copy the functions again in the last videos. Let me go through it. Parameters for each of the parameters. Um, we have the text functions because this is on the upper left corners. So just 0.01 and then 0.95, and then this is the where that should be. Let's rename this to RSI, and then the format maybe we would not need that. Okay, the format because it's between zeros to hundreds, so just need to run off the data and then get the. Remember, we want to get the latest values. The latest value. Try to get it. We get the latest values and then run it off. Send it, and then transform to this. This transform is just for the coordinate setup. That means just the 0, 0 is the coordinate 0, 0 or the origins is on the bottoms left corners. And again, color right, font size 10, font weight bold, and horizontal alignment. I just put it left, make sure it's over the, make sure it's left, uh, very close on the upper left corners. So the vertical alignments I also just is to top. And finally, I need to create a time functions to send the time in the in x-axis. But first of all, I just want to create a list that contains that will have all these times time values, and then I'm going to put these lists into functions in order for us to present um, the the dates, sorry, the times. And just try t equals to x days. This one I want to set this like x values, and that is our inputs. And then now can define the format over here. That is percentage percentage minutes. I just want to show the time, so let's do it. Percentage h and turn the x dates. Let's return this. Except let's have the index. If there's an index error, just return me string. Excellent. This is for these few lines of code is for the x-axis to present the time. Finally, we want to set the major formats with um, with these functions. So this is for the x-axis format. Um, so it's the mtaker function formatter, and put this my date. That is to place the functions that we have is this for this function formatter with this function. And then for read, just make it a true, and color gray have to be show sharp, and line style still we use solid line, which equals to major. Just need to show the major axis, and for the axis, both x and y axis I want to show, and line width equals to 0.3. And finally, for the tick parameter, I just want to show the x-axis, and just for major grids, major one, and then the label size, set it to 10. There are two typos of this program. Let's fix this first. First is the x-axis for this plot, x-axis, and then RSI values for this line chart. I forget the hash. And then the second one is that use the RSI. So this sign should be less than, instead greater than. Then let's run the program. And that's it for this lessons and series. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't hesitate to let me know if you have any interesting ideas about these lessons and also about this series. I'm more than happy to know more from you. See you in the next videos. Bye bye.